This week on The Handle. This multi-hued episode celebrates an array of visual delights. From a woman who made it her mission to beautify the city to a pair of women who bring new color to a timeless hobby. And a collegiate squad bringing art to the masses. All of this right now on Panhandle PBS as we tell the stories of the Texas Panhandle.
Well, it's just like the trees here. We don't have any trees. We had mesquites. And then when the pioneers and stuff, they plant their elm trees, and people curse those elm trees. That's the backbone of Amarillo trees. It is the Siberian elm. But we had to plant everything that has made Amarillo green. It was just a prairie. And thank heavens that there were people who cared. I'm Dusty McGuire, and I don't want to be called an environmentalist, but I feel very strongly that God gave us this earth and we need to take care of it. So I did keep Amarillo beautiful for about 20 years, and I love to garden. I just think it's the greatest thing. I'm happier gardening than anything I do. What you do is you see things, I see things that need to be done. I went to Keep Texas Beautiful meetings a couple of times, and my God, they were doing so many things. I said, I feel like somebody from kindergarten with these professors. And I thought, if we don't get something going in Amarillo. So I did. I organized it. I had a small committee, volunteers. There were about 17 of us. And, we had a great organization. We did a lot of things. And like the trees, I did a book, Trees for Amarillo. We had a program, and the nurseries kept a record of every tree that was a gallon or up. We kept a record of it. And so I wanted by the end of the century that we had one tree for everybody in Amarillo. And we did. It was amazing how people bought into that.
When did you start thinking that the gardens needed a Japanese garden?
Probably summer of 17. I think it's so peaceful. In fact, Greg from the Botanical Gardens has told me that people talk loud when they're out there, and then they get into that garden and they get soft. And some of those younger people, not teenagers, but younger ones, will sit out there and just meditate. It's interesting what effect the Oriental garden has on people. But I built it. I paid for it. Billy Cross built it, and I will maintain it. Billy's taken care of, the big things and stuff. Of course, the Botanical Gardens has to do their maintenance too, but anything that's major, I will take care of. But I think that, I don't have a lot of money, but I see that people leave their money to a foundation or something, and things are not done the way they wanted it. And I thought, I'll just pay for that and do it. I'll call the shots. Dick and I were married almost 40 years when he died, and we built this house, and we never went to the Orient. We just liked the serenity of it. I grow bonsai. I think that it's fun to take something and keep it small. It is, it's fun. What you look for is something that nobody wants. They're kind of tacky looking. You have to prune the roots as much as you prune the top. So has to be in balance. There's a lady who comes to Amarillo in the summertime, and I always look for her. She's on a corner somewhere, and I have to pick up one or two, In Washington, D.C. at their Arboretum, they have a fabulous collection. You just think, oh my God, but the trunks are, like this, and the trees are about like this. When somebody had something, I said, I want that. In fact, some of the lanterns that I have here, Dick and I went up to Michigan, picked up a GMC motorhome, came back through, I think it was Tennessee or something, and there were all these Oriental pieces out there. I said, "Oh my God, Dick." So he stopped. Dick would always stop for me. And so we had that motorhome just filled with lanterns and things like this that I'm still using. I have lots of coats of paint. I was 89 in April.
And you still do a lot of this yourself then?
Oh, definitely. You know, there's such satisfaction. Like, I was shocked when you called me, and I thought it spurred me. I still had some things to do out there. I thought, oh my God. So I really got busy painting some of the things that needed to be done. And there's a lot more that needs to be done. It's not finished.
I don't think art can exist without science. Let's just face it, they talk about STEM all the time, science, technology, engineering, and math. But truthfully, it's STEAM. You have to have the art in there. Stephanie Steelman, and I am an independent dyer and spinner here in Amarillo, Texas. I like to think I'm a little like Ben Franklin. I just have a multitude of jobs. So my full-time that pays the bills job is over at CNS Pantex as a scientist. I've met so many people that were musicians and artists that once they saw chemistry, they're like, it's musical or it's very art-driven. So this all combines together. I would never have told you that I was creative 20 years ago. I said, no, I'm a scientist. This is what I do. This is how I do. But typically, you have to be artistic in order to think of crazy new ideas in research and development. You really do. So I think that has really shown me that I am a little bit artistic. Maybe I can't paint a picture, and if I draw, it's a stick figure, but I can put a palette of color onto yarn and make it look beautiful.
I am an abstract artist. I mostly work in polymer clay mosaics, which is what you see behind me. I love to tell a story or create a mood or record a period of time by assigning color to different patterns and shapes in my work. I'm Dawn Barker, and I'm an artist. Probably as equally as long as I've known that I'm an artist, I've also been fascinated by fiber. My grandmother, who is now in her 90s, just recently, she told me that when I was 5, I came to her and demanded that she teach me to knit. I don't remember that, but she turned me away, and about 2 years later, I came back to her and showed her something else I had made and said, if I can do this, you can teach me to knit. And so she did. So I've been a knitter most of my life as well. And so creating hand-dyed yarn was an easy step for me, an easy leap, I guess, because I could marry my love of color and color theory and color dynamics, the way colors work together, with my love of fiber. Another thing about me, I really love to bake. And so and then I was also a radiation therapist for many years and working in a hospital with cancer patients where you have to be very precise and accurate. And so accuracy was kind of built into my early DNA, I guess. And so dyeing for me is kind of a blend of a lot of different things that I've done in the past. My love of color, my love of precision. So yes, when I create a new colorway, I will come up with what combination of dyes will work together to create that. And then I record everything. I measure everything very carefully, and I record it all in a little black book my recipe book that I keep to. And then I eventually try to transcribe them, so I have an electronic copy as well. But everything starts in the book.
When we first started dyeing, a lot of the things that I read were like, take a teaspoon of this dye and a teaspoon of that. And in the scientific community, we work in grams and milliliters. And what I noticed was when I would look at like a yellow dye versus red, and I can show you this, yellow dye versus a red dye, the molecules were different sizes. And you could tell by you would see the yellow is real fluffy and you'd see the red is real dense. Well, the red is a much smaller molecule than the yellow. And that was fascinating to me because I was like, oh, well, that means that if you have a smaller molecule, and with wool, what happens is you have scales that lift up. And so the dye penetrates under those scales to change the color of the fiber. And when I was like going, oh, well, that means for red, you want it to strike fast. You're going to have it ready to strike. Your scales are going to have to be up. Whereas with yellow being a bigger molecule, you could do a slower strike. That's what we call it. Another thing that fascinated me is I can use all kinds of different types of acids. You can use weak acids, you can use strong acids, and it totally changes the color on the material. I mean, you can have a aluminum sulfate, you can use that, or you can use citric acid, or you can use vinegar. And all three of those dye baths with the exact same amount of dye, with the exact same wool in there, will give you different colors. So there's a lot of chemistry that goes into it. You can do natural dyeing, which you do mordant baths, and you actually have to use things that will actually help the dye bind to the fiber if you use natural dyes. The dyes that we typically use are synthetic dyes, and they're called niolamine dyes. And so I actually went out and found the original paper on dyes and niolamines by a scientist that I think had it ordered through American Chemical Society. It was like $75 for like a 15-page article, but I wanted to totally understand the chemistry of these dyes before I got started. And so I drive my friends crazy because a lot of them are school teachers and English teachers, and we read the same books, but they're like, 70, we don't want to know about the molecule sizes.
Well, I do work in batches so that the amount of time for one skein it sounds like a long time, but of course I don't just do one at a time, so that helps. But it needs to soak for a minimum of at least a half an hour to in citric acid and water to kind of open up the fibers and prepare it for the dye process. And then once it goes into the dye bath, it has to come up to a certain temperature in order for the dye to kind of soak into that yarn, and that can depend on the dye. Some dyes exhaust very quickly and other ones take a little longer, but anywhere from, ballpark half an hour. And then they get washed and rinsed, spun to spin out some of the excess water, and then hung to dry the rest of the way. And that is very much weather dependent, how quickly they dry. If we're in a hurry, we put fans on them. And then that hank of yarn will get spun and twisted into a little skein and then labeled, and then it's ready to go to one of my stores. I would like to say that I'm kind of known for deeply saturated yarns. I like to dye in a style called tonal yarns, where you've got lots of different layers of color going on. There are all sorts of different styles out there that other dyers dye, but I like to try to dye things that I would want to use and that I would want to ultimately wear, and so that's where a lot of my inspiration comes from. Most of my colorways are not just one single dye; they're layered in combinations of different colors that I mix together. So. A lot of dyers like me, a lot of indie dyers, get our supplies, our dye from the same company. So it would be easy for me to just dye straight out of the jar, and it would look a lot like what everybody else can do too. So in order to be different, I think it's important to try to mix things up and create your own.
What comes into play though is, let's just say you want to mix red and blue, and they're two different size molecules, and you want a purple. If you don't understand what's going on in there, you may get red and blue splotches on your yarn versus purple dye that strikes the yarn at the exact same time. I would so love to take the dyes to work and inject them through my gel permeation chromatography instrument and get the exact molecular weight of it. But that would be misuse of government funds, so we're not going to do that. But I would be fascinated to look at all the different sizes.
I want you to back up and say the name of that instrument again.
Gel permeation chromatography.
No. Slow.
Gel permeation chromatography. Really, what I do is I'm a polymer chemist. So I look at how aging mechanisms have in plastics. We're surrounded by polymers in here. But what it pretty much does, it can do the size of a molecule. So whether it's a pharmaceutical or a dye molecule or a polymer molecule, it can give you the size.
I was given a really big break early on by a dear friend. Her name's Tiffany Smith. She owns Colorful Yarns in Centennial, Colorado, in Denver. And she contacted me through Instagram very early on in my process and asked me if I wholesale. And at that point, I wasn't even sure exactly what that meant. So she started ordering from me very early on, and it's grown from there, where I've really not had to go looking for shops to carry my yarn. They've contacted me, which is kind of the beauty of social media. I have 12 different stockists around the country right now, everywhere from Portland, Oregon to Frederick, Maryland. I have a shop in Wisconsin, North Carolina. I'm forgetting people I know, but I'm in McKinney Knittery in McKinney, Texas, and Hill Country Weavers in Austin, West 7th Wool in Fort Worth. Those are the closest ones, and then also Denver and Santa Fe as well. I was spinning my own yarn, and I don't hand spin all of that. That's a big question that I get is, do I spin all of this? And the answer is no. That would be more than I could keep up with, but I enjoy hand spinning. And I had worked a little bit with some natural dyes with my hand spun yarn. But once I decided I wanted to do this, I just kind of dove in and learned and used as many resources as I could to try to learn and develop my own technique, so I have my own voice in it. Just like any other artist with any other medium, you take an already existing medium and make it your own and put your spin on it. Unfortunately, since I live in town, I can't have an alpaca or a sheep in my backyard, but I can have an Angora rabbit. So yes, I have she's a 3-year-old satin Angora rabbit named Fern. Angora rabbits are bred specifically for their fiber production, and a mature Angora rabbit can produce somewhere around a pound of fiber a year. And if you think of a pound of cotton balls, that's a lot of fiber, So even just one rabbit is a good fiber source. She blows her coat usually about once every 3 months, so that you just kind of brush it out and collect it, and then when you have enough to spin, you spin it.
She blows her coat.
That's the technical term for it, I guess. She sheds. So just like dogs and other animals shed seasonally when the weather changes, things like that, Angora rabbits tend to go through that process every 90 days or so.
I got hooked with the spinning, bought my first spinning wheel. I said, well, if I'm going to spin, I want fiber animals. So I got a few Angora rabbits. We have 2 travel wheels. We have this one, and this one's a travel wheel. This one is my favorite one to spin on, and then this one is what they call an art wheel. You get to design your own spinning wheel, and so I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, and so that is our Lord of the Rings spinning wheel. It has one ring to rule them all. I just can't get it off right now. We've got the 9 on the side that are trekking through, and Gandalf's on the front, and I actually have my Hobbit house that actually lights up, so he does really fancy wheels, and I said that was my birthday present to myself one year.
Any colors you like to work with most?
Turquoise, straight up, favorite color.
No, I don't have a favorite color. I do end up with certain color crushes seasonal, in different seasons. I'll be really into a certain color.
What's your crush out of this collection?
Oh, you can't ask in front of them. But I don't have an absolute favorite. There are some. This one's called Pink Cedar, and it's a new one for this fall, and I have really been loving this. This one's called Sea. I've really been enjoying that one and using it quite a bit too. But then there are some that I kind of bring back in every collection because I love them still. So that's not a fair question.
I'm Susan Brown, and I teach AP World History here at Tascosa. As I'm a co-sponsor of Fish Club, which is a student organization, and that stands for Friends in Service for Hunger. The founder and leader of Snack Pack for Kids made contact with us and said, I've got another idea for you.
And they kind of look at me and I said, there's hungry students on your campus. You have friends that are hungry at your high school. So then I met with them one spring and I said, hey, how do we create a solution on your campus that you run, kids have their dignity and respect maintained. They are anonymous, yet we give first-rate quality food, quality service to our students. And how do we create a model that can be replicated? A student in middle school or high school goes online, orders from a menu of 37 items. They get a custom bag that they can prepare, that they can change each and every week. And it's delivered to their favorite teacher, coach, staff member on that campus with nothing but their student ID on that bag.
My name is Haley Ross, and I'm a senior at Tascosa High School, and I'm president of Fish Club. Typically on Mondays every other week is when we get a delivery with all of our food and restock. On Wednesdays, one team packs the bags and the orders. We just have a piece of paper and we follow the order and put everything into the bag. And on Thursday, we deliver them. And then the mini groups can come in here and they just grab all the bags for their hallway and deliver it to the teacher's name that it says on the label.
We work together with Jana Parcells, who facilitates Rebel Rack, where we focus on providing groceries for students on the weekend. She has worked hard to provide a clothes closet and hygiene products for our students as well.
It kind of occurred to me that if students don't have food at home on the weekends, then chances are the money was probably not there to purchase clothing either. I have a form that at the beginning of the year I email out to all of the teachers. If they have a student that comes to them or if they notice a student that they think might be in need, I usually contact the student directly and have them come out. And it's just that student and myself, and they can just pick out whatever they need. If we can make them feel more comfortable in their outward appearance, that gives them more self-confidence to fit in with other kids, and it takes the focus off of them and they can put that focus on their schoolwork.
If you're hungry and you haven't washed your clothes and your hair is dirty, I mean, all of those different variables that can happen, of course, you're going to be struggling in school, and who could fault you for that?
Tascosa is the biggest school in Amarillo and biggest school in the Panhandle for that matter. We are over 2,300 students at this time. We are a very diverse school. We're economically diverse, probably from the poorest to the richest, and then we are very multicultural on our campus. When they go to college and they have opportunity for service projects, or when they get their jobs later on in life, they will know these type of things are available and they can help. But it just gives them a spirit of service.
I think our students they're growing interpersonal relationships, they're building that work ethic, they are learning decision making, delegating, all kinds of things that employers want.
I think for our students who have received a snack pack, who are actually the recipients, I think what they get from this is that people care. I was given these shoes, these clothes, all of these things, these people who want me to be successful, these people who have my best interests in mind. And now I see what their actions, how they have benefited me. And now I want to take that and I want to turn around and give back to others.
You know, 6 years ago when we were approached about doing this, I said yes, and all I said yes to was, hey, let's feed hungry kids, absolutely. What I didn't realize was going to happen is that we're developing leaders. The students who are running this program and making decisions and problem solving when things come up and working with each other, with people they know or don't know, they are really developing some skills.
So many times as adults, we think we know what kids need, and we don't. And so who better to solve a problem on a high school campus than high school students? What we've done, and I think this is important, is we've taken our knowledge and our mistakes and our success from here, and we have created a manual. These students here at Tascosa have written a manual that is now copyrighted and trademarked. On our website, we get calls and inquiries from all over the country every week.
These kids count on us. They count on us to be able to eat on the weekends, and while we don't know the specific individual, it could be somebody we sit next to in math class or walk down the hall with, but we know how much it means to them. And these teachers tell us continuously how grateful they are because they know that student and know just how important it is. And so for us, we feel the impact even though we don't specifically know them.
Hey, my name is John Rivette. I teach painting and drawing at WT. We started the WT Mural Squad in 2014. We've done about 15 to 20 murals around the Texas Panhandle.
We worked day and night to get this mural done, so we all got along really well during the process.
There was 13 of us, and so he kind of like scheduled us in shifts. So we got to work with like a variety of all of our classmates kind of.
The goal is really to kind of beautify the Texas Panhandle more than it already is, but also to give students experience on how to do murals, which I think is a really important skill to have for young artists.
It takes a lot of work to put it together, a lot of man hours, and then just a lot of planning on ahead of time.
I think the biggest thing that I learned is that you can get a lot done with the right amount of people. With a big mural, you know, we all got to work together in a team, and how wonderful it is to work with other artists, I think is probably the best thing I got out of this experience.
We really like just doing stuff that kind of gives an identity to the community.
The history of the region, the culture, to kind of celebrate, just a celebration of a lot of things.
And it was time, you know, to give a new face. And that's why the mural's called A New Day. I think it adds a new, more diverse identity.
We have the Paladero Canyon Mount Rushmore, and so what we did for that was open up a Facebook poll to the public to allow them to vote for 4 faces to put on our Mount Rushmore. Hypothetically, it would be at Paladero Canyon.
We got a very diverse range of people, from George O'Keeffe the painter to Charles Goodnight the cattle rancher and Bones Hooks the bronc rider, and then we've also got Quanah Parker the Comanche chief. So all 4 of them, you know, they're very diverse from each other, and they all show a different facet of, you know, the community that we have here in Canyon.
We're not just here for like a quick stop through town or just for Canyon or for WT, but we're also a community that values art.
Hopefully it's going to be a cultural piece that everyone can appreciate, because we tried to bring in like a little bit of our cultural diversity and a little bit of our past, and kind of like a representation of what the area has been.
Old to new.
Yeah.
Old to new.
Right.
How much we've developed as a community, so.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm on a cardboard boat, and the water is high. Cause when you're on your own, it's like there's nowhere to hide. I'm on a cardboard boat tonight. Been looking back again. Feels like I lost everything. I know I'm older now. Feels like the tide's rushing in. Been looking back again tonight.